Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina. Yes. Yes. Got it.
Any other business for the Records Commission?
I would just like to let everybody know that, our goal is to be going through records lickety split or as fast as we can. So we may be doing these 2 minutes before every meeting for a while, just as we get through those.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Yes.
These are 20 years old. How long do we have to?
So different records takes of time. Some of these are 5 years and some are 7. Usually the financial ones are 7 years, after it's been audited. And then other things are like the employment applications are only 1 year.
Yeah.
But leave forms, I believe, are 5 years. We have a 6 or 7 or 8 page list of all the documents that we identified and the years that we have to keep and whether or not we then have to get approval from the state before we actually get rid of them. There are some that we have to get that level of approval, but everything that we're giving to you is we can shred it, once you have, the Records Commission has approved it, so.
Do we have to go through this for electronic records?
Yes, yes.
Same
Yeah.
type of-
Okay. Next meeting, number 5, TBD, and we are adjourned. The Records Commission is. Now we're going to move on to the regular agenda, regular meeting. Call to orders.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina. Yes. And Tabitha. Yes.
Any public participation?
same as before.
Same as before, okay. Number 3, I'll need an approval of the minutes of the December 2023 regular board meeting and the 2024 organizational meeting.
I move.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen.
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Tina. Yes. Tabitha. Yes.
Number 4, correspondence, I think Lynn handed that out separately.
I did give you a sheet. I will just make note that, number 1, I made a boo-boo on that sheet that I just handed out. I pulled the number 1B, the county numbers and the BCPL numbers for 2024. I pulled it from the wrong line, and so I actually gave you last year's actuals. So if you want to update what we're proposed to get this year. So 1B, the county should be getting $1,545,706. And our share is $958,337.72. That's about $46,000 less than we actually brought in this year. But again, this is a projection that they make in December for the entire year. They'll give us another one midway through the year, adjusting and correcting. And then number 2, I know that we talked about this actually several months ago. Highland County had reached out about their library boundaries. The background is that I'm going to say 10 years ago-ish, 10 to 12 years, the state library had asked all public libraries to affirm their district boundaries. And the reason behind this was because we had just started into that phase where lots of public libraries were going for local levies. And they wanted to avoid arguments about you can't double tax them for 2 libraries, where do the boundaries exist? So that's what this is all coming from. And I think that at the time, Highland County was actually in a transition phase. Their director at the time was beginning to look towards retirement. I think they were, you know, I just think there was transition, and I think they just missed it, to be honest with you. And now if they're looking at doing this, they have to set their boundaries. There is nothing in their definition that encroaches upon Brown County. So we don't have anything to worry about, but because we're adjacent, we got the notice. So that's what that is. And then as far as Ohio Library Council updates, yet another mandate from the state about fraud and theft reporting, and I'm not gonna say that this is a bad thing, and we actually already do, as part of every new staff member coming on board, they get a notice that says, if you see fraud, here's the hotline you need to call. And my conversation with new staff members is always, our organization, we run in a way that we hope there's never any cause for this to happen, but if you see it, you need to report it. If you feel comfortable coming to one of us first to say, hey, what's going on? And, you know, please do that, but you have an obligation to report fraud if you see it. So what it's going to require, though, is mandated. You know, they're mandated reporters for other kinds of things like abuse and that kind. Well, now the fraud reporting is going to be mandated by certain people, which includes, according to this list, it includes trustees, because you have a fiduciary responsibility, executive director, fiscal officer, deputy fiscal officer, managers, and all of our office administrators, because we're all involved in the process of expenses and approving expenses. So we become mandated reporters. The state auditor's office is supposed to be developing training to pass along to us all. So when we see it, we'll get trained and we will do what we're supposed to do.
Is there any precipitous for this?
I think it's just a general crackdown. I mean, we saw in the last audit, it was, I mean, I think you all got questionnaires that had
Yep.
some things that were related to that. And I just think that that's, you know, with electronic commerce, I think they're finding it harder to track things, and it's easier to do things you might not otherwise do. You know, think about the old days when you had to forge, you know, change written documents if you were going to do something. And now I just think they might feel like it's out of hand, but I have not heard any specific incidents that have led to this.
So, you know, we're completely digital. So we're a digital insurance company, and there's definitely a rise in the fraud through the digital process.
Yeah.
No more papers, you can do it in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a thing.
Well, and that's what I figured, is this is just one more piece of their entire strategy to make sure that funds are being handled properly everywhere. And so, like I said, we already have that as part of our onboarding for all staff members. It's just never been mandated, but now we're going to need to make a bigger
I wonder
deal of it.
if it goes back to the fraud that they were finding later from all the
Unemployment.
and COVID funding.
Yeah. That
You
could
know,
be-
bonuses,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
or even the businesses that put in, you know, you hear stories of the businesses that applied for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They didn't need it.
little rinky dink business, and they were saying, oh no, I have this huge payroll, and yeah, so we're all getting paid for what happens. Yeah.
Yes.
God bless America.
Yes, indeed. And just, you know, issue 2 is still out there. Obviously, you know, we've passed the time when it actually became law. But the regulatory side of this, you know, our state legislature, as far as recreational marijuana use and the limitations and all that, they're still debating that, you know, because I think the legislature really wanted to do something before it passed, but they couldn't. And so now they're looking at, it's probably going to be another 6 to 10 months before the final regulations come out. But bottom line is that employers are protected. We have a drug-free workplace policy, and that applies to recreational marijuana use or alcohol or whatever, kinds of things people might choose to imbibe in. And then, of course, they're still working on the virtual meetings for public bodies, and so hopefully they will get through that quickly so that it will become an option for us. So, but there will be hoops to jump for that as well, so just be prepared.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Number 5, financial reports, Miss Sarah.
Okie dokie, let's talk about December, even though I'm in January, full speed ahead. So for the month of December, I'm gonna compare December to November. Salaries for the month of December, $77,032.71. That was up $6,620. And that is because we did that one-time payout for retention of $350 per employee. Employee fringe benefits, $15,200. That's also about $6,000 compared to November, sorry. Purchase and contract services, $13,431. That is down $4,147. Library materials, information supplies, $20,110. That is down $12,352. We paid a lot more in November than in December to start closing up all those POs that we had to. So for the general fund month to date, we were down $16,237 compared to November. Overall, out of all funds, this report is a lot bigger than normal because I added so many new accounting codes. So instead of, I think it used to be 5 pages, it's now almost 7 pages on letter, so legal much of it. So month to date, all funds, we were down 21,159. So a lot less than November. Bank reconciliation, worksheets, receipts, $100,082. That consisted of PLF of $86,927. And then we received a Cook donation for $10,000. So that got us to almost 100,000. Payments, $138,872. Adjustments, $8,504. I told you you'd see a lot of adjustments in December. So that was, we had a lot of E-rate and then we had a lot of firms. So. Outstanding payments, I looked today and I think I have 2 outstanding. One is Swan Libraries. That was cut on 12/18. I hope they catch that soon. And then Ingram Library Services, we had cut a check earlier. We were just waiting to get daughter I's and cross our T's. So that was mailed yesterday. Cash flow summary for the general fund. So you'll notice actual December, and now the column to the right says actual totals. So yay. Like I mentioned, public library fund was $86,927. Let's see, other receipts, not too much, $434. Just our revenue for December was $87,361. I already talked about all the expenditures. That total was $125,464.99. Leaving our cash balance at the end of the year at $741,093.37. Yay. Cash summary by fund, I've already mentioned, expenditures, $129,423.25. You'll notice this freaked me out as soon as I saw it. Technology fund had a negative, and that's because I did more adjustments than I paid out of that fund. So I was like, what? Why is that negative? Because we had so much E-rate.
Oh, yes.
So, and then you'll never see this again under non-pooled balance, 0. So we have 0 POs open. You'll never see that again.
Wow. Yeah.
We had to,
Wow.
the change in the accounting
Oh,
codes,
yeah.
we had to close out everything.
So you'll never see that again. December 2023 expenditure reconciliation reports, payments, $33,938. You'll see the payrolls. That December 15th is when we did that retention payout. That was $46,583. Then our last payroll of the year looked a little bit closer to what it normally is, 32,866. Board share OPERS was $9,652. Board share Medicare, $1,119. Board health, $4,846. And then your local taxes, most times they're negative, but because I paid local taxes at the end of fourth quarter, those are positive. Out of pocket for the employee health was $1,206. So my total expenditures for December, $129,423.24. So the next payment listing, so pretty much that whole sheet with all the adjustments that I made.
So that was Friends
Friends,
and
E-rate.
E-rate and, some of those expenditures. Okay, it wouldn't, the LAL grant wouldn't show up there because
No.
of our own funds. That,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
got it.
Any questions about any of the checks that I wrote in December? They're all pretty standard. So that was $33,938.36. Just kind of skipping along. So the last report you get after the end of a quarter. So this one's nice because it's kind of a recap of the whole year. So let's kind of just run through that really fast. Public library. 2022 compared to 2023, we were up $15,298. Local taxes, homestead rollback, we were up almost $40,000 compared to 2023. So I like all these numbers to go up, and they did. Services provided to other entities, we were up $1,173. Other receipts, $2,222. So, the revenue compared to 22 to 23, we were up 58,326. So yay. Expenditures out of the general fund, salaries went up $48,465. Benefits, $18,499. Library materials only went up $2,734, so we spent pretty close to what we spent in 22. Other operating expenditures up $14,342. This one was kind of hard to compare 22 to 23 because we had that transfer, that advance of $55,460, which we didn't have this year. And then we only transferred $125,000 instead of $290,000 last year. So, really good shape, really good comparison from 22 to 23. Does anybody have any questions about that, comparison for the end of the year, the fourth quarter?
Then we need a motion to accept financials, investment reports, pay bills, and donations, please.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yeah.
Tina,
Yes.
Becca.
Okay, on to the executive director's report, starting with the building report and statistics, and just remind everybody Heather is available for a series of questions if you have
A
any.
series.
Also, Miss Tanya is here, because, Tanya, I'm just curious, because, of the 3-year stretch of weather, and, with it being cold, any issues here in the building?
No.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, yeah, because pipes are bursting all over
Oh,
the
right.
United States and wind, and I just,
Haven't had any issue, and our latest checkup from Dan Holtz went really well. We have nothing that needs to be fixed,
good.
which is a regular thing. So I took that information, I said, thank you, trying to walk it.
Don't tell me that.
And so I think it's the rest of this week, single digits. We move into next week and we're back up in the 40s. Yeah, which is Cincinnati.
Yeah, we just need to get it through, through the next
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
days.
that's what it was kind of thing. My thing is always just get through the month of January,
Mhm.
with the weather. So thank you. And it's got to make sure Heather's not jealous. And I didn't Okay.
No, I know she's not indicating any jealousy whatsoever, no, she's turning green or anything, so we're good here. You know, obviously the building report is about December, and so you saw a lot of stuff about our end of the year, our season's readings, the Santa shops and how they rented the various, buildings. One of the things I'd like to point out is that, and it was made mention under Fayetteville's, at least that's the one right in front of me right now, but it probably was mentioned elsewhere, was about under the new goal is that, you know, the staff members in Fayetteville and Sardinia, Amber spent a good amount of time training them on the routine things that she normally did so that, you know, reports and that kind of thing would get done and people would know, you know, who do you call, who do you ask if there are issues? And of course, Tanya and Heather have each stepped up and taken on one of those buildings as to be the point person. So if they have a manager question, you know, Tanya's fielding the ones from Fayetteville and Heather's fielding the questions from Sardinia. But all of those staff members at those two buildings are really stepping up, learning, you know, having learned new processes and new responsibilities, and they're just doing a fabulous job. So kudos to all of our staff who are, you know, carrying on while they're waiting for, you know, all of the recruiting and hiring of the new managers to be finished. So
Okay.
kudos to them.
And you know, I just thought of something too. We don't, with this being an election year, we don't have anything to do with allowing people in parking lots. We stay completely clear of that, I'm assuming.
We have policy that says that no campaign materials may be present on our property. We don't
Okay.
do any of that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that on
Yes.
the driveway, where we don't want any part of that.
Right. Now,
Especially this year.
right, and you know, and here's the thing, there's not anything we can do about somebody who's driving a vehicle that's got the
Right.
advertisement on the side coming in, using the library, you know, that, but yes, no, that's not it. You cannot use public funds to campaign, and so
But
we can't
also-
put our own signs. If it was the library levy, we couldn't put our own signs in our yard.
But we don't want to allow people, you know, whether it's meeting halls, parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, I just worry, you know, particularly this year.
Well, and thankfully, you know, not that makes it really any easier for staff, but thankfully we have a patron conduct policy, you know, that is pretty clear, and it's the tool that our staff members can use if they can't, you know, otherwise redirect or dissuade someone from creating that kind of a scene. You know, they've got the policy to refer to, and they shouldn't hesitate, you know, to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. That's not allowed here.
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
yeah, you're welcome.
Any questions for Tanya or Heather? You're good. Statistics?
Statistics? The picture, yeah, I know, I was gonna say, Tina's front and center there.
Yeah, we always get sure.
Well, and I have to say, I love Santa doing trivia at Sardinia. Can you see in the background there?
Yes,
It's got the beautiful
Blended
view.
in.
So the statistics, on your pink paper is, the end of the year. So you've got not only the month of December, but you've got the full year to date. And also comparison with the prior years to date. So I'm just gonna quickly point out a couple of comparisons that I saw. So that first category, the physical circulation was up over 28%. So if our staff members felt that there were a lot more things going out, there were a lot more things going out. Interlibrary loan was down just a bit, a little bit less than 3%. I can conjecture that perhaps the use of digital resources might contribute to that, but I don't have any data to back up that speculation at this point, and it's minor, you know, less than 3% change. And I'm sure that our staff members would be happy not to have to process any more interlibrary loan, and they absolutely need to, am I right,
That's
Connie?
true.
Okay, all right, just thought that was the case. In-house use also went up, it went up a little over 23%. And then the programs, this is where I think it's really important for us to step back and think about that. So in the programs, bottom line, total programs were down a little bit less than 5%. But we often get to this point in our activities where, I'm saying, okay, quality versus quantity, we don't have to do a program every day in every building, that's going to exhaust the staff and, quite frankly, at some point it becomes saturation to our market as well. And so I think that continuing to be really selective about the programs that we do is important, but also balancing that with meeting the expressed needs of our communities. And it's interesting to see that the on-site programs were reduced a bit. The off-site programs increased, so we're taking the library show on the road to where the people are, and I think a lot of that had to do with the Libraries Accelerating Learning Grant, being able to do that. And then virtual programs also decreased, so we did fewer virtual, we did fewer on-site, but we took the library out to the people more, which is something that we need to do. You need to go where your people are,
So where is that 480, is that the number of people that were counted, or what was?
that's the number of actual programs we did.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
so
I
over
was
four,
trying to-
no, you're
Okay, I'm
good.
sorry, I
No,
couldn't
you're,
remember how that played out.
no, you're fine, because the next little category down, that's the number of people.
The people, okay,
Yes,
sorry.
yes, no, well, so I'm glad you said that, because if our actual number of programs is down by about 5%, you look at the total attendance in that next little block, it's only different by 18 people. 18 people when you're talking about nearly 40,000, and 40,000 is about the population of Brown County. So even though we reduced the total number of programs, we served actually 18 people more.
Where do you see 18 people?
So if you look at the program's attendance,
Right.
which is just slightly below, and you look at the last two columns.
Yeah.
Okay, so the light pink is.
Oh, you're meaning the total?
Yes, so
Okay,
between
okay.
those
I was
two.
looking at on-site.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
It's more than 18, okay.
Yeah, no, so
On a total, okay.
18 people
Gotcha.
more in 2023 than we did in 2022, but we did 5%, roughly 5% fewer programs. We just took them to different places, they may have been different topics as well. I mean, you have to do a much more thorough examination to find all the reasons why, but that's the kind of thing that we want is, how you work smarter, not harder, right? Is what you need to do. So I thought that was very interesting. Collection, we did not get rid of quite as many materials in 2023, which is fine. I mean, I know in 2022, there was a big push for doing weeding and getting the collections cleaned out. So that's good. We really don't have the shelf space to be adding thousands of books. And you also have to remember, this does not include digital items. So we're adding to our collections digitally, but those don't appear here. Patron accounts, there were many fewer accounts that were removed from our system. So I feel like maybe we're finally settling out with that culling of patrons, which is good. It may be that over the last number of years, as more digital uses happen and those uses have to be authenticated with a library card, and we're getting more accurate tracking that way, that more patrons are using those digital things, and so their cards are still active, whereas before, when there wasn't, you didn't need your library card to look at digital things, then they could have easily, the card could have been removed. And then the door count, the library visits, that's up over 17%. We know there are more people coming in the buildings, so it's all good. And I'm not going to go line by line or page by page through the other items, which I think were in your packets as well. But the one I do want to just mention is that the Brain Fuse subscription that we have, that's the homework help. And also it has the job help component. The homework help was used over 200 times, it was a 200% increase. It was more than a 200% increase in the use. And again, I think that's due very much to that grant that we got and the fact that we are really pushing tutors using that and promoting it to the students that they're assisting. So, but the job part was also up, and that was up about 70%, not 17, but 70%. So if you felt like you were busy, Tanya, you were busy. You felt, I figured you, regardless of the number of staff you had on hand, you felt it. Questions about anything else that I maybe didn't talk about that you had any questions about? No?
No,
Would you like me to go on to announcements?
and then can we please start and then.
And not today.
Wow.
Not today. You had 9, we'll forgive you, you had 9 meetings today.
It's like when you fire people.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, yeah. And if you remember, 6 months ago,
Yes.
when I got my new role,
Yes.
I warned everybody.
You did.
I did.
You were
6 months ago, saying if I come in and something like this happens.
We'll forgive you.
Let me.
We got it.
Hey, Lynn,
Hey.
would you like to go on to announcements?
I would love to talk about the announcements, Mark. Thank you. So Tanya mentioned that the HVAC checkup was all good and all at Georgetown, but poor Fayetteville had a little bit of an issue, and I don't believe that we have got the hot water heater repair part finished yet. We're still looking at that. And I did say, I said, now might be time to look into the tankless water heater option. And so we're going to be exploring that. But in the meantime, they also noticed that a valve was malfunctioning. And this valve is not just your one connecting 2 pipes valve. This is, looks like did you see the pictures you saw? Yeah, it looks like they're like 27 pipes go. That's an exaggeration. There are a lot of pipes in a big valve, but it's the backflow. And that's one of the things that gets tested when they test the fire suppression systems, and it was leaking. So Dan from DVMS, they actually, I briefly saw a message from Brooke just before the meeting started, and Dan was there, and they apparently found the correct part and put it in, but now probably our fire system inspection crew from Adamson will probably need to come in and test that, and we have to do that annually anyway. So there's that, and unfortunately, it appears that water has been dripping in that area for a while. There was some mold. So, and of course, this is back in a corner where, staff don't normally go look. So they're also going to be looking at the wall for us and making sure that there's nothing more than just whatever was coming from that visible valve, and that there's not anything hiding off in the walls or otherwise. So it may turn into more. I hope it doesn't, but it's being assessed. And yeah, Georgetown, so we talked about, I actually had this on the list last time about the keypad malfunctioning, and Adamson, it cannot do anything about that. And so Simplex has to be called. And I'm afraid that they're going to say to us, well, we can't replace that. We're going to have to upgrade your entire security panel system, which is probably about time, because I think it was it was before you. I think it was when we put this edition on 1998, when we put that part in. So, but it might be a great time to be looking at, okay, let's talk about security cameras. Let's just if we're gonna have to let's just look at the whole thing. And, so that our big expenditure this year might be replacing the monitoring and security system in this building, so.
which is important.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So how old is the hot water heater?
Well, so, I have no recollection and can find no records that we've ever replaced it. And so 1999 is when, very end of 99 is when Fayetteville and Sardinia opened, so 25 years.
Okay, you got it.
You know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Anymore, they say 12 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there's residential versus commercial.
Right, well, and, we're not, a restaurant where have to have we're not
Right.
washing dishes all the time, we have limited hot water use, and so I think that's why we've gotten away with it, so long.
That's
It
impressive.
probably lasted longer because we weren't a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why, I look at it and I think to myself, because, think about electric water heater and how that works. It's always on,
Yeah.
it's always heating, and if you've got a big old tank, how much power are you using? Whereas for the needs we have, that's why I'm thinking tankless would be probably a really good option for us. So we'll see how that plays out, but there's always something.
Should we, or do we need to be proactive and start getting bids on some of these things to have ready to go?
That's why I am, while they're looking at this particular hot water and, we might, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that way you can come to us and be like, yes, just. that
Well,
way.
and that's why, the next step here is to get Simplex to come out. Now, Simplex is our monitoring system for all of our buildings. So whatever panels we have, whatever, motion detectors, they're the ones who initiate the calls if something is going wonky. So they're the first people we need to call, but we also have contact with some other companies, particularly ones that are partners with Ohio Library Council, that know libraries. And so, we'll be looking to them to do quotes as well. But yeah, it's, we won't be able to do all of them all at once, but we certainly can be ready, and actually be great. I mean, if we can do a good system that is a reasonable cost for this building, then we know it's going to be simpler at our other branches, and it'll be easier, to establish that. So this is a best test case, to see if something's gonna work. Would you love being a test case, Tanya?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, you've seen it all, doesn't matter, right? You got the community engagement report in your packets themselves, and I just wanted to point out that with Amber leaving, Ashley, our public engagement associate, has taken on the Brown County Safety Net as her organization, where she is the liaison for the library. And then Dawn has taken on the Drug Coalition for hers, and they both have had opportunity to go to those meetings and get introduced and begin working with those to share information about how the library can possibly support what they're doing or partner with them more actively, and then bring the information back to us so that we can inform our staff in any way that might be helpful to rolling out that information to our patrons. As far as funding, I want to point out a couple of things on the announcement list. So under 3B, that Libraries Accelerating Learning Grant, we had to do a budget revision and get all of the outstanding reimbursements, a check cut to us for that. And they told us we had until the end of January to get in the report that covers October through December. And then about just before Christmas, they said, oh, by the way, we're gonna need that earlier than the end of January. And poor Sarah at the same time started getting audit questions about the grant. I mean, a separate,
Yeah.
but it was
Terrible time.
it was terrible timing. I mean, so I'm really hoping that this grant, that the Department of Education will, have an opportunity for libraries to give them some feedback about, we'd love to do this kind of thing again. But hey, we're on a different fiscal year than you are. Let's find some ways to make it easier so that we all don't pull our hair out while we're doing it. So yeah.
Don't call mid-December, call in February.
Yeah, exactly. So letter C is another one. This Appalachian Community Grant Program has been going on forever, and it feels like it's been going on forever. And I talked about the fact that we were included in an application. Since then, we have had surveyors show up at the Mount Orab Library, I think no less than 3 times, getting floor elevations and doing the outside. And so I'm not saying that means we're in and we're gonna get money, but what it sounds like to me is that planners who are assigned to us to do the preliminary architectural things are tweaking their numbers, and so when we get their stuff back, it's not gonna be shovel ready, but it will be really well done, and we'll have data that we need, so if we want to do something, the next step is going to be that much easier, so I'm really excited about that. However, yesterday, about 10:30 in the morning, I get an email from this applicant group saying, well, the state is asking us for more information. So if you want to have any more information, write us something more justifying what you're asking for, right? We've already, how many times have we submitted stuff? When did they want it? They wanted it by the end of that day.
So was it basically just a summary of what you already asked for, or?
Can we pull more reasons out of
Right.
thin air to say,
Yeah.
this is why this is so critical in this area? I don't know. Honestly, I did not spend the time to do it. Okay, I'm down 20% in staff, well, except for now we've got 3 people in Georgetown that just started, so we've got too many other things. I couldn't do it, and I thought, I'm not gonna make something up just to give them something. So if this is the place where we fall off, then we fall off. And if it's not, then it was meant to go ahead regardless. So, because honestly, if this application gets approved and we are included in it, we are going to have to jump into a building project immediately, which means not just building, because it's not a brand new piece of land and we're creating something new. It's going to disrupt Mount Orab entirely. So part of me says, it'd be best if we just didn't have to do that right now. But but I would be excited if we could. So if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, but I just am telling you, I couldn't drop everything else and come up with something brand new and exciting, and here's why you should fund us. I think we've already made our case. Letter D. It is a letter. I almost was gonna call it a number D. Ohio Arts Council, that was something that Heather did the heavy lifting on that one, and we got the award, so that's gonna fund some programs, coming up to summer reading program.
We gotta check for half the amount already.
Ta-da! And the branches have been very good about identifying programs and making arrangements, so I think things are really on track for that. Also, letter G is also due to Heather's contact with somebody who's on the local Party with a Purpose committee, and so the Mount Orab Library and its summer programs are being included as one of the funding and funded entities this year. Now, of course, the Party with a Purpose happens, it's the St. Patrick's Day when they do the fundraiser, so nobody knows how much money it's going to be, but that's really exciting that they will be a recipient of that. And then H, also due to Heather's heavy lifting, is a grant that thankfully is a lot easier than a lot of the other grants that we write, where it's to buy some books to help diversify our collections. And so Heather was able to get that together, and that was submitted Monday. And so Heather, any idea when they're supposed to make decisions about that?
I don't think it said, it just had the deadline of yesterday.
Okay, so who knows? Maybe we'll be able to, if we get funding, we'll be able to buy and catalog those things prior to summer reading program, I would imagine, is the case.
That would be a great if we were to get that, a great marketing opportunity to do a write-up in the paper and maybe get one of the Ohio authors to come,
Oh,
you know, and kind of promote.
yes,
Wouldn't that be fun?
that would be.
Mhm.
So, okay, take notes, Heather.
That's for you to work on between 2 and 3 AM.
2 and 3 AM, yes. In your sleep, let it churn, yes, yes. And then, because another meeting that I had today ran over, I was not able to attend the, little webinar they had about number 4, the automated patron communication module. But I know Heather and Ashley at least, were in on that, but, you know, it's really exciting that our consortium that runs our cataloging and our circulation is also providing marketing materials, patron communication materials that we can do some, you know, quick customization, you know, get our logos on it, whatever else. And data in the patron database will, you know, be the tickler that will, you know, send the birthday greeting or whatever else. So that will be just another nice way to keep in touch with our patrons. And then number 5, just I want to make sure that, you know, you're aware that this change of mileage rate, our policy actually says that whatever they say on January 1 is what we're gonna do for the rest of the year. So that's, I just want to make sure, let everybody knew that that change was coming up, and that's all I'm gonna talk about.
That, those announcements that the emails too would be really cool to have in the patron database. So let's say I went to like the OWL program, like you could say, hey, we're doing an OWL program, saw that you came last year, and it would just be automated to get people, you know, like, just, I love marketing stuff.
Yeah, well, no, it's fine. And actually, I know that there are many more things than the little blurb that they sent out that I went, oh, we need to be on this webinar and learn enough so we can.
It'd be really
But
cool.
they will do they'll do a training with just us, you know, they'll customize the training with our staff so that we can get up to speed and do the things we need to do. And, you know, we'll probably do little bites at a time, but that would be the great thing would be able to have that kind of,
Automated.
yes.
Saw you were into this.
Yeah.
We're doing this program.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Then on to committee reports. Any committee reports?
Nobody met, nope. I just leave that as a standing in case something happens, yeah.
Okay. Number 6, censorship in public libraries, which is this article right here.
Yeah, which I literally copied and cut and pasted because it was spread out over 4 pages of the journal. So I said, I'm not gonna, you know, copy 4 pages. I just gave it to you front and back there.
But I didn't realize, because there had been so much over the past 2 years, Act 372 criminalizes the distribution of obscene materials in libraries.
In the state of, where are we? Are we in Arkansas? Arkansas, yes, in Arkansas, yeah.
So what's the gist of this? I didn't read this.
So the gist is the library director was fired,
Uh-huh.
okay? And, they call it a library control board, which would be equivalent to our library board of trustees. They forced a change in the governance. So no longer was the library control board responsible for overseeing all of the library things, but the oversight went to a county judge. So one person is making all the decisions about this county library, and they didn't like the fact that the librarian said, no, we're not going to remove these things from the shelves. And
County judge was wanting to remove things that he
Well,
thought were controversial. or-
actually, it was more than that. It was that whole, people coming in with lists of books that they didn't believe belonged on the shelves, but they weren't library card holders, and they didn't read the books. And it came to a point where, because the librarian stayed firm, The only way that could be found around it was for a group of people to say, well, we're just gonna change the way that the library is governed. And we're gonna put it under the jurisdiction of this judge, and then the judge can do whatever he wants to do, essentially. And, yeah, I mean,
But
this
but
is
these
ugly.
judges, and when you read this, it's called a forum court.
Yes,
I mean, they're just elected people. They're not necessarily have anything to do with the law background. It just. a community member
they call them
that's been
justice of
appointed to be-
pieces, I think, is
Yes,
what the members
Yes,
are. They're just,
that's right.
yeah. So it's like a jury of your peers kind of thing, sort of, but it's, yeah, it's not run by any jury system that we know of, and they just decided they didn't like the way it was being done, and they couldn't force the librarian to change her stance, and so they said, well, we're gonna force her out of her job by changing the way the library's run, and
Well-
scary stuff.
Yeah, but there's that really kooky concept, if you come up with a list of books that offend you, great, then don't read it.
Yeah.
And then here's another kooky concept, if you're in a family, then you can tell your family not to read them.
Mhm.
And then you leave it at that.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, one of the interesting things that I have underlined in here is that no formal challenges were ever submitted to any books. So there was all this uproar, and I mean, they even went to the length of defaming the librarian. They put, I mean, they did things on billboards,
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah.
labeled pedophiles on social media.
Yeah.
Well, because this is such, groundbreaking topics and discussions, and it can alter the way people live,
Mhm.
that you need to go to these lengths. That was sarcasm.
Yeah, I felt you pushing the sarcasm button repeatedly there.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that, besides, ruining people's reputations, and you can't walk down the street, they also, made it impossible for the library staff to do their jobs. I mean, there's on that back page, the librarian said that they FOIA'd, which is Freedom of Information
Mhm.
Act. So they submitted 90 requests for freedom of information. Do you know how much time it takes to field those public records requests? For what, right? To what end, other than but here's the good thing, and kudos to them. The library board, before it got changed, refused to fire the director because the director was doing the right thing and doing the right job. But that's when this group of people decided
Changed the
they were
game.
we're gonna change the game. And so, yeah, so I just thought that this was an interesting take on the whole set of conversations that we've been having.
It's all about personal agendas,
Yeah,
which always get in the way.
yeah.
I did see, Cincinnati local schools try to, I don't want to misquote it, but I saw it on local 12 last week, that they voted down, these parents went to the school board to try to get things removed from the library because they considered it obscene. Did you see that?
I saw
And the
that.
board voted it down,
Mm.
which is good, right? Because they said,
It was a book and you could kind of choose
yeah,
the
like,
story.
oh,
and
right.
and
give
it was
different
like two men
directions.
kissing or
And at
something,
one point, the,
or two women kissing.
well, it wasn't even a woman, it was a child, it was a children's book and the child could save the princess by kissing her.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So this parent wanted it thrown out.
Yeah, and there were apparently many people who stood up and
And the
said,
board said no.
Yeah.
They stood their ground, which I thought was good.
So Heather, I see you've unmuted yourself. Do you have some comment on that?
That was actually Boone County in northern Kentucky that happened. And there was a lot of public and even students that came forward on it. And that's actually a Buckeye Award nominated book. And that was in one of the books that I've got ordered for all the branches.
So are you ready? Are you ready to stand up?
That's great. Yeah, yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah.
And then, so I was just also gonna say, so my best friend, she's a teacher at Sardinia Elementary. And she's actually taking a course on library materials.
Mhm.
And she had to do a questionnaire that says, do you feel like the school libraries is offering enough diversity?
Mhm.
And she's like, I have to answer honestly and say no. And she was asking me about our library, and I was actually telling her, I was like, actually, Sardinia, in June, they did a Pride Month, and then in December, they did holidays around the world, where they did Kwanzaa and Hanukkah. So I said, I feel like the Brown County Library is diverse.
Mhm.
She's actually gonna write about that in her class,
Yeah.
of how diverse we are
There you go.
to get our schools more integrated.
Mhm,
And so she's actually wanting to start a little library in her classroom
Uh-huh.
on more diverse books, so
There
I
you
told
go.
her to follow up with the library.
There you go.
Yeah, D&I is a very hot topic right now.
Mhm, mhm.
Very.
But I'm like, good for her for being honest.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
teacher, that's hard to do sometimes, but she's like, at least I can start it in my classroom.
It's, I'm sure it's a fine line, and the teachers in the room could talk about it forever about, what the balance
I have
is.
no desire to fight parents.
Yeah.
I won't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not at 24 years in.
You're
I'm
like, I'm done.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, back when, my kids and one of my reading groups were gonna read Harry Potter, and I had resistance over that, and I'm like, there's no way I'd try anything
Yeah,
new
Yeah.
this day.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm with,
you remember, didn't the Catholic Church come out with something?
Yeah.
against Harry
I
Potter?
believe they
If I
did,
remember
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's witchcraft.
It's all.
Yes.
Right, and-
and all
yeah.
that.
An imagination.
Yeah,
How many book series are about, like, Lord of the Rings,
Mhm.
right, and
It's
yet
fantasy.
the fantasy and that's where the personal choice has got to come in, but you choose what you want and you do what,
Our
read what you want.
libraries, I mean, even our middle school one, I mean, they're kind of just fading away. I mean,
Yeah.
I told you guys that,
Yeah.
they're just going away.
Mhm. Yeah.
They, and it's nothing against the aides that are running the library,
Right.
but they don't have library degrees.
That's right.
They,
Yeah.
our libraries are very welcoming. I mean, most look the same way for years. I mean, a lot of the books are probably the same books that have been on the shelves,
Mhm.
for years. I know they just did a huge clean out because they're getting ready to cut the library in half. And, they're gonna make the end of our middle school library kind of like what they've done in high school now, kind of that, lounge.
Commons or
Whatever it's called area. So I don't even know how much the kids are checking out books. It's just more of like a.
Study hall.
So babysitting.
Yeah, yeah.
Service, honestly,
Yeah.
for.
Well, and this is one of the reasons that, when you look at what we're doing and going to where the clients are, our patrons are, part of that, and, I know that, Heather's been really instrumental in trying to make sure that we've got people going over to the middle school doing book clubs. Because we know that the school, libraries are non-existent, and they don't have the trained staff, and so if we can bring a little bit, to the students that are identified that can participate and keep them interested in reading, and, maybe even find a way to invite them and experience the public library as well, then, that's about the only way we can participate in doing it, and so we do try at all of our branches to make sure we've made connections with the schools and help out in that way, but yeah, we could talk about how thankless teaching is right now, and this doesn't help any, this particular topic, but yeah.
Let's move on to number 7 then. Motion to approve the standing committee membership. Current members are Personnel, Tracy Varner and Barbara Burrows.
Bureaus.
Right. Finance and Audit, Tina. And then Policy, Kathleen Johnson. I need a motion.
Do you want to do anything more than have one person on a committee at this point in time? I know that we're still down a trustee, and if you want to wait, we can wait for another
Well, that might not be a bad idea.
trustee. Yeah, but we had said we would table it till this meeting,
Yeah.
so I want to make sure it was on
So
there.
we should,
Yeah, thank you.
idea.
Yeah,
Okay, so we won't need a motion.
okay.
Then we can go to number 8, motion to approve the disposal of property, which I believe is the yellow sheet.
Yes.
Before we move on to that, do we have any updates on the trustee?
We had tabled that through the holidays. And
Okay.
so I
we're not
haven't,
Picking it up.
I
the
need to
spring.
finish hiring.
Okay, no, that's
Staff
fine.
first.
No, that's fine. I just didn't know kind of
Yeah.
like what the
Yep.
anticipated time.
Yeah, so my hope would be, well, we can talk more, maybe under other about what we're gonna do next month and what the priorities would be.
Okay.
So I'm waiting on a motion to approve disposal of property, please.
I'm gonna,
Thank you.
I'll second.
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
yes,
Barb,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha.
Yes.
And I just caught a note from Heather in the chat that, after our discussion about going to the book clubs in the school or doing the book clubs in the schools, she said they've had several of those students join their volunteers group. So, the connection is working. Yeah.
Oh, very nice, Lynn.
I saw the taco night coming up for the volunteers.
Mhm. Ply them with food.
There's always shows up to the food night. You'll do whatever you want to do as long as there's food.
It just,
Number 9, we need a motion to enter executive session to consider the employment of public employees.
I'll move. I'll second,
Mark,
Yes.
Kathleen,
yes.
Barb,
yes.
Tina,
Yes.
Tabitha.
Yes.
So, before Heather and Tanya leave, is there anything you ladies want to say, or the board members want to ask of them?
Stay warm.
Thank you, she said. Yep. Thank you for not asking Heather too many questions, I think is what she was saying.
It's the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll thank any public that may have been watching on YouTube, and we're going to stop that now as well as we.
We're hoping